Like to welcome everyone to the April 8th, 2024 meeting of the Board of Health. It is 6:04 p.m. We will roll call in. Stephanie Granger, present. Michelle.
Present.
Sue.
Present.
Megan.
Present.
And Joanne is working on her computer audio. So hopefully she will be fully with us shortly. The first agenda item is open forum. Do we have anything?
I don't see any questions. No hands raised. So I think we're good.
Okay, then we will move on to the approval of the minutes from March 11th. Did anybody have any comments about those meeting minutes?
Look good to me.
Yeah, I had no
Yeah,
comment.
I know. I almost wanted to try to find something wrong, just so prove
Nice,
that I
real
read
nice.
it. Prove that I read it, yeah.
Oh, great. Then does anybody want to make a motion to accept the meetings from the March 11th, 2024 meeting?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes from the March 11th. The only thing is maybe the year is wrong. I'm just looking at it.
Oh,
Yeah. That's the only mistake.
good catch.
All right, I'll let him know.
That's it. Yeah,
We've
besides
moved it
that,
to a new year.
yeah. So I'll make a motion with that change to accept these meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Joanne
Wait a
says
minute.
she is okay with them.
But
So motion made by Sue, seconded by Michelle.
Yes.
All right. And all in favor, Stephanie, yes. Michelle,
Yes.
Sue,
yes.
Megan,
Yes.
and Joanna said yes via chat to us and a thumbs up. Thank you. So excellent. Thank you to our minute taker. We will go on now to is it too soon? Is Cheryl with us or?
Looks like
Yes.
she's here.
I am.
Yeah.
Okay, hi Cheryl, thank you so much. We're gonna begin a
No
discussion
problem.
on tobacco regulations, and we have Cheryl Sparra, who is the Executive Director and Senior Staff Attorney for the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Shall we have her start with sort of her presentation or?
Yeah, so as you had mentioned at the last meeting, a few board members had some questions about some of the synthetic derived products that they've seen in the news and in some of the communities here. So we did reach out to Cheryl Sabara, and we want to thank her so much for attending tonight. And so she does have a presentation prepared that we'll share on the screen. And Cheryl, whenever you're ready.
I'm
Thank
ready whenever you are.
All right. Do you want me to put that up or would you like me to share?
Yeah, you can put it up. Can you share with me and I can move it, or
Sure.
should I just say next slide, please, for you? It doesn't matter to me.
Here we go. Okay.
Perfect in Massachusetts for it coming down the pike.
Especially right before the marathon.
Okay.
Okay.
Next slide. Next slide, please. Or am I gonna do it? Let's see.
Nope,
guess
I can do it for you,
you
sure.
can do it. Okay. Okay, so Ray asked me to talk about something, and unfortunately it's fallen on the laps of a lot of tobacco control programs and health departments. But we're seeing, and we have been for several years now, what we're calling hemp and THC-based intoxicating substances. And they're creating quite a challenge, not just in Massachusetts, but really around the nation. Next slide, please. And one of the reasons that they're causing such a challenge is because hemp was removed from the Controlled Substance Act. And what we used to, there was a real distinction years and years ago from hemp plants and marijuana plants. I mean, there were clear distinctions between them. And hemp could never get you high. It wasn't an intoxicating substance. But now, because of the way growers have been able to grow these products, they look almost exactly, or they do look the same. So there really aren't any differences between them anymore. Next slide, please. So what happened in 2018, and this is when the problem really reared its ugly head, is when a congressional piece of legislation was passed, and that removed hemp from the definition of marijuana. And the way they defined hemp in this federal law was the plant, including all derivatives, extracts, cannabinoids, isomers, that's an important word, and other stuff, growing or not, with a delta 9 concentration of not more than 0.3%. So that's the definition of hemp that's in the federal law. It has to have a delta 9 concentration of not more than 0.3%. So that's clearly what the legislation says, and that's the plain meaning of this definition. You can't have, if a product doesn't have more than 0.3% of delta 9, then it's considered hemp. Next slide, please. So what should happen? Well, we start seeing, after this law was passed and the definition of hemp was removed from the Controlled Substance Act, we started seeing these products. And this is what you're seeing, what Ray's seeing. And if you go into a convenience store, which not a lot of us do on a daily basis, unless, you know, you're a health inspector, but you don't normally go in there. But if you do, you will see these things on the shelf. And if you see this one here, it's a 1 ml delta 8 vaping product, and it's flavored. Okay, so because it's a vaping product, next slide, please. These products are not allowed to be sold in Massachusetts. They're illegal pursuant to the statewide tobacco sales law, because that law bans all electronic vaping products regardless of the nicotine content. So these products, tobacco control programs, health inspectors can fine on these products. If a retailer has this type of product in a store, they can be fined $1,000 for the first offense, $2,000 for the second, and $5,000 for the third, plus their permits can be suspended. So these should not be a problem in Massachusetts because they're flavored vaping products.
Wait, Cheryl,
Yes,
the previous slide
yeah,
is,
Go
should
back.
that, yeah,
sorry, Ray.
That's
that one.
okay.
So that one's banned then too, right?
Yes, in Massachusetts, because they're called hot cake, biscotti,
Okay.
white fire.
But it's flavored.
They're
It's flavored.
flavored, and if you
Okay.
open them up, you don't even have to open them up to smell these things.
Okay.
Even if they don't say they're flavored, like what does white fire OG smell like? I have no clue, but I know it doesn't smell like tobacco. And if
Okay.
it has a taste or smell other than tobacco, it's considered flavored. So we don't even care what they call them. So cake cannot be sold in Massachusetts. And the programs are well within their right to fine on them, suspend on them, ask the retailer to remove them, etc. It gets more complicated, however. Next slide, Ray. Please, thank you. When you run into these kinds of products, these are edible gummy bears, and they are created with delta 8. They don't say delta 9, they say delta 8. And you'll see that they advertise themselves, the companies that create these advertise them as being 2018 Farm Bill compliant. And then they brag about just how much Delta 8 THC and CBD are in these products. And they even say they're extremely potent right in their advertising. So these are intoxicating products. Next slide. So what is Delta 8? Now, Delta 9 is that's what's contained in cannabis that makes it cannabis. However, if you're looking at a cannabis plant, there are more than 100 cannabinoids in that one plant. So what Delta 8 is, it's an isomer of Delta 9. And you guys probably understand that more than I do. But it's basically Delta 8 has the same molecules or atoms, but they're arranged differently. And they are found naturally. Delta 8 is found naturally. It's an isomer of Delta 9. It's found naturally in cannabis, but in minuscule amounts, like really small amounts. I think one scientist determined that it would cost about $1 million to produce 2 pounds of Delta 8. So you can't create it. It is not created naturally. So any product that has Delta 8 in it has been produced in a laboratory. Okay, it has to have been produced synthetically. It's impossible to produce it any other way. So, and now we know it's available in all of these different ways of ingesting it or inhaling it or drinking it. If it's a vaping product, we're okay. We're okay if it's a flavored vaping product. And believe me, none of these are unflavored. None of these Delta 8 products are unflavored. Next slide, please. So what are some of our concerns? Well, health effects, we're just beginning to get some evidence on what the negative health effects have been. We've seen a couple of deaths from kids ingesting these. You don't know how much or how they're going to affect you because they're not regulated at all. You know, cannabis with Delta 9 is regulated from door to dumpster in Massachusetts, but these products aren't regulated at all. And there's not any sort of requirement that their labels are even accurate. So we don't know, I mean, they're frequently mislabeled. We don't know how much CBD or THC is in these products. They're not age restricted, and they have been found to create impairment and intoxication in people. And then they're also confused with other products that aren't intoxicating, that are, you know, lotions or something that has been approved by the FDA. And they're available everywhere. I mean, you just go into any store and you're going to find these products. Next slide. So there are two schools of thought, and I'm really just going to discuss the way Massachusetts has come down on these products. Now, you'll remember that the definition says that a hemp product has to have less than 0.3% Delta 9 in it. However, the DEA has said that because Delta 8, and now we've got Delta 8, we've got Delta 10, we've got THC 0, THCP. I mean, they've created now a burgeoning list of synthetically created intoxicating products. it's not just Delta 8 anymore. They've synthetically created many other isomers that come from the cannabis plant that aren't Delta 9. However, the DEA is saying that because they are created synthetically, any synthetic product has not been removed from the Controlled Substance Act's Schedule 1. So that is the official position of the DEA, and they've made that position known. And what the DEA says and what the government is saying is that the intent of the Farm Act was to legalize only industrial hemp, not synthetically created intoxicating hemp. Well, it would have been nice if they had said that, they had defined hemp that way, but they didn't define it that way. That was the intent of the legislation, but they didn't make it clear when they wrote the law. Next slide, please. However, our programs, our tobacco control programs and health departments started getting complaints back in 2018 as soon as that law was passed. And this is what we got out of the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. And we didn't get it. We asked for it, in 2018. We finally got a statement in writing from MDAR in 2021 that said that any food product containing CBD, animal feed, they basically said that these bullets here, food, animal feed, dietary supplements, and labeling requirements, that those could not be sold. They were not approved for sale. And what they also said, though, was that failure to comply may result in enforcement action. And they cited MDAR, DPH, and the local Board of Health or law enforcement. If you called the hemp program back in between 2018 and probably up until last year, if complained about these products, they would say, we do not regulate, we do not enforce in retail stores, call your local Board of Health. That's what they say. They said consistently. So, our local programs weren't sure what they should be doing. Number one, they were in stores for tobacco enforcement, and they're running into all of these products, and they were at a loss for what to do. So MAHB was asked, and we did draft a regulation that regulated these products. We now have one that bans these products, but we drafted a local regulation to at least age restrict them, put them behind the counter, do some things so at least we could keep them out of the hands of youth. Next slide, please. So DPH did, shortly after the products were found, they issued a guidance document saying that the FDA prohibits these in food. It's not an approved ingredient for food, therefore it's an adulterated product, and it can't be in any food or beverage. So they did issue a guidance document saying that these violated the food code. We also had the ABCC say, and this has changed since 2018, that it was unlawful to manufacture any alcohol that had any THC in it. That's changed. Now you could have a Delta 9 product, but it could only be sold by a licensed marijuana establishment. You can't find it in liquor. You shouldn't be able to find it in liquor stores, even though you can, unfortunately. Next slide. So we, those local public health departments started really notifying the state agencies that we needed some help here. Because if we were going to take on this new industry, which again, you know, they play whack-a-mole like the tobacco industry does, they just keep creating new products. Like they just all the time, they create new products. So next slide, please. So there was a Adam Piori, who is a health reporter for the Globe, contacted me because he wanted to do a expose for the Globe on these products and what was really the problem with them. You know, why were they bothering us? And you know, I explained to them that we were being put in a situation where we don't have the resources to enforce on these products, but nobody else was doing anything except saying that they were illegal. You know, we had DPH saying they were illegal, MDR saying they were illegal, the FDA saying they were illegal, but nobody was doing any enforcement. Next slide. And that's just another article. Despite that, state agencies largely passed the buck and left enforcement to local boards of health, which often lack the resources. So, you know, the message got out, and this was a couple of months ago. Next slide. So MDR just recently, made a statement. This is a public document. It was an email to the health director in Winchester and to me, affirming that food and beverages were prohibited in Massachusetts if they contained hemp-derived cannabinoids. They are illegal. And I don't have to read all of that. You can read it, but they go through the Farm Bill to not legalize all products made from hemp. As such, just because the product comes from hemp does not automatically make it lawful because it was created synthetically. And the ingredients in these products are considered adulterants because they are not approved as additives for food products. Next slide. So we also have in writing in an email from the Cannabis Control Commission, and this we're beginning to see now. We've seen Delta 8 and Delta 10 beverages in liquor stores and in grocery stores, but we started seeing Delta 9 products, which is the THC Delta 9 cannabis products. But they're not allowed to be sold in liquor stores. But the distributors are telling these liquor store owners that, yes, they're allowed. You can sell these. They're perfectly legal because they're made from Delta 8, not from Delta 10, not from Delta 9. So this liquor store in Reading, inquired, let's see, I think he inquired in January and got an email back, I think, in July from, well, he got a response from the Cannabis Control Commission saying that, he reached out to the Cannabis Control Commission because the Reading Health Department said, why don't you reach out to them? And he got an email from them saying they can't be sold in liquor stores because if they're out there, they need to be sold in marijuana establishments because those are licensed establishments that can sell edible food. And the reason they can sell edible food is because the state regulations exempt cannabis from the definition of food. So even though it's a cannabis infused gummy bear, it can be sold because that is not legally considered a food product in Massachusetts. And don't ask me to explain the rationale behind that. Well, the rationale behind that was that they didn't want local boards of health to be stuck enforcing the food code in marijuana establishments was the reason given, but it's created havoc. And the problem now with these liquor stores is that some of them are complying and taking them out and some of them aren't. So again, it goes back to who's the enforcing authority here? Who's actually responsible for this? So, as the Cannabis Control Commission said, if you're referring to the beverages in the images, and those were the Delta 9 beverages, you would need a license from the commission to distribute them. Kind regards and have a great day, Brendan. I'm sure the guy was the owner of liquor store, wasn't very happy when he got this message because the store next to him was selling the products. But in any event, they have written that these products cannot be sold in any place other than a marijuana establishment. Next slide. So, this is again another email from the Cannabis Control Commission saying the same thing. Complaints about the hemp-derived beverages should be directed to the DPH Food Protection Program as they are prohibited. And I think, and at one point, and we encourage you to reach out to your local Department of Health, Board of Health for guidance. We understand there can be some confusion, especially if distributors are misrepresenting the legality. So that's where we are now with these products. We have created a recent regulation, a template that bans the sale of all of these synthetic products that I'm happy to share with you. We have we put a fining structure in the regulation that is the same as the tobacco sales regulation, where it would be 1,000 for the first, 2,000 for the second, 5,000 for the third, and continuing violations with suspensions for the second and the third. My only concern is, do boards have the ability to take this on? Because again, we're taking on an industry that does not play fair and that creates constant confusion. They took the tobacco playbook and are using it and will continue to use it until someone cracks down on these products. And we now know, we have in writing documentation that these are illegal in Massachusetts, but the only enforcing authority appears to be boards of health at this point.
Thank you,
That's
Cheryl.
my story.
Thank you. So personally, I think that I know Ray would feel we probably don't have the ability to work on enforcing, but it seems to me that it might not be unwise to consider at least including the regulation so that if issues arise, we have a clear way to respond. Because we've already, as a town, said marijuana is not legal to be sold. So I think the intent there would be,
Yeah.
these.
So what I have put together is I've put together a document that has all of the in writing emails and with a copy of all of them attached, which I'm happy to give Ray. And feel free. What some health departments are doing is just bringing these to the retailers and saying, this is illegal, get this out. And it works in some cases, and in some cases it doesn't, but at least it's in writing. Everything that we have that's in writing, that's a public document, I've put together in a packet that I'm happy to email to you folks.
I think that would be great, Cheryl.
And I
Thank you.
can also send you, if you want to just look at it, at the template, to see if it's something you might want to consider. We do have, I don't know how many, I really need to check, probably a dozen or so, maybe more, maybe between 12 and 24 probably municipalities who have enacted something relative to these products.
Yeah, I think that'd be great if you could share all of that with us and so we
Sure.
could get what those.
And I mean,
towns-
you can enforce the food code.
Mhm.
Without a local regulation, you could enforce the food code. It just, the question is, this is opening up a real Pandora's box when it comes to local enforcement. But it's out there and it's dangerous, and somebody's got to do something about this. And You know, with tobacco, at least we've got funding from the state to do something. There's no funding from the state to do this yet.
Yeah,
Well, they should have never legalized marijuana in the first place, so that's. been
Well,
a-
that train has left the station.
I know, but I mean, but I agree though that whatever you have, we should take, because I think we want to stay ahead of this, right? And the message has to be clear how we feel in this town. So I would really appreciate anything you can
yeah,
share.
I like the idea of being able to share with, the establishments in town what is not legal. Joanne?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So one, apologies for dropping off. I missed a little piece, Cheryl. But a couple questions. So we don't typically go into liquor stores, right? For any reason when we're doing enforcement. So anything of that nature would have to be complaint driven.
Well,
But
unless you enacted a regulation, then you would have the ability.
then we would have to go in and look, right?
Yeah,
We'd have to do inspections, so that's an added burden with.
absolutely.
And it's, so unlike tobacco, which we permit and have some kind of a revenue stream from, we don't permit these we don't have any skin in the game on this, except, but we're forced to enforce it, kind of.
Well, I mean, I don't, the liquor store issue is one issue. The biggest issue, though, is the products that are in convenience stores.
Yeah, so that was my other question.
That's the priority. And you're absolutely right. I remember when Beverly enacted their regulation, they put in suspension of permits. And I said, well, what permit are you going to suspend in a liquor store? We used to be able to have the food service permit, but that's not available anymore. So they said, well, we wouldn't do it, if they didn't have a Board of Health permit, we wouldn't have that tool available. But if it was in a convenience store, we would have the tobacco sales permit that we could suspend. So they tied it to the tobacco control permit, knowing that it wasn't going to work everywhere,
Okay,
but that it would work in the vast majority of places that carry these products.
so that's more like that little packet of whatever they
Gummy
were.
bears,
The
but
gummy,
it's
the Delta
also
8s.
the Delta 8 infused beverages are in, the only ones that are in liquor stores that they're claiming are legal are the ones that have Delta 9, which is cannabis. That is cannabis, Delta 9 products.
But they're only legal in a dispensary.
But they're only legal in a dispensary. You need a license from the CCC in order to sell those products. But you can find the seltzers, you can find that stuff in convenience stores.
Okay.
Thank you. And we would
And-
appreciate it, Cheryl, if you'd share stuff with us.
Ray, I'll send
Yeah.
everything to you probably tomorrow. I'm out most of the day, either tomorrow or Thursday. I'll send you what I just talked about, the reg and the packet.
So can I ask another question?
Sure.
In terms of tying it to a permit, instead of tying it to the tobacco permit, say in a convenience store that's selling seltzer, say, can't we tie it to their retail permit
Yeah.
instead?
it-
Because it's a food product, right?
You can tie it to any permit that you issue. And here's another health department is considering for the liquor stores is tie it to their alcohol permit that the select board issues. And
Mm.
have the licensing board pull their permit or at least have them in for a hearing.
I'm thinking that the best, we don't have, like you say, the resources, right, to be, but if we educate the public, and we because all this, if we educate the public so that they're keeping their eyes on when they go into these convenience stores or liquor stores, if they see
And
this
parents
product.
especially.
Exactly, that's what I
Parents
mean,
especially.
parents, so I think that's probably the best way that we can get help for this is educating the public, and they're the ones, maybe like you say, then they report us to the department, we saw this in this shop,
And have it all be complaint driven as opposed to
Yeah.
have
Exactly,
staff
exactly.
come out and do inspection. Well, they
Exact-
wouldn't.
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, that's exactly my thoughts.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're entirely welcome anytime.
So can I ask one more question?
Sure,
I
Joanne.
dropped,
No,
I
Joanne.
dropped off sort of at the vape piece. So I thought I heard you say that vape products are okay.
Vape
Yeah.
products are illegal and can be, if they're flavored vape products that are Delta 8 or Delta 10 or anything, they are already illegal because they are flavored vaping products.
Okay,
And the
right,
tobacco sales law captures those.
right.
So
Okay,
those
I
are
thought I
only-
heard you said something different. Okay.
And our tobacco inspectors are familiar with that
Yes,
part of, okay.
Yes.
Okay. No, thank you.
I think
Nope.
it's horrific the way that they're targeting the youth, though. Like, it's like, let's find something else for the kids to get high on. I mean,
No,
how
you know-
tragic is that? You know,
There was replacement smokers, replacement vapors, that's what kids are.
awful.
Just one other question, is it kratom or?
It's either kratom or kratom, depending on
Okay.
who. That's another challenge. We do have one municipality that has banned it. The kratom industry is aware and actually attended the public hearing on this product because, again, it is not regulated at all. There is not a lot of science on it. There are two schools of thought on kratom. One is that it has helped people who use drugs get off of opioids. The other school of thought is that it's just as dangerous as opioids because it's not regulated. It's not a synthetically produced intoxicating substance. That's why it's not in the regulation that we've created, but it's certainly something that boards are looking at and thinking about for all the same reasons. It's just not synthetically produced. It comes from a plant.
Okay.
So yeah, that's coming down the pike as well.
Please keep us informed, right?
I will.
I was just curious, Cheryl, is that something that a board could add to the regulation? As far as, you need to
Kratom?
be 21 and put it behind the counter? Yeah, for
Oh,
kratom.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could do whatever you do with synthetic, you could do with kratom as well.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. I'll let you get back.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay,
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
anytime.
Cheryl.
So helpful.
Bye-bye.
I need to excuse myself for just a moment. I know we should be moving into our public hearing. I don't know if I should open that or take something else real quick and then return.
Is it all right if I ask my question about the minutes?
Sure, you can ask your question about the minutes, although we did approve them.
No, I haven't, it's just. a
And I
question.
will leave Sue in charge here for just a moment.
So it's not that I'm disapproving the minutes, because I think they're fine. My question though is, I was just curious as to why you have, Ray, you have to go before the board, the select board, to get approval to buy flu vaccine. If we have a revolving account, we're an independent board. Why?
So the town has a rule, we'll say it's a rule, the select board, I should say, that if any department is spending over $20,000, they want you to come in front of the board to not come in front, but you have to add that to their grant list and all their approvals. They want to be aware of when such money is spent. And I can ask why. That's
Yeah,
just.
and I actually would like to know why.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I guess if that's the policy of the town, I would like to see that in writing and see that other departments have to do this. This is flu vaccine. it's not, you know, you're asking to buy a car or you're, you know, this is a public health function and it comes from a revolving account, so it's still self-sustainable. It's not coming out of the general fund. And if they just want to be told, it should be told. That's not for them to approve or not approve.
Yeah, I can certainly check.
I'm actually kind of concerned about that.
The town, you know, has, for instance, one example is you spend anything over $1,000, you need a purchase order and it has to be approved by 2 other departments before we can even pay that bill. So there are all these little, but I can check specifically why for the $20,000 limit.
Yeah. I mean, that's an internal financial policy. I do the same thing, you know, if
Mhm.
you have different thresholds, obviously procurement laws come into effect, but not with this, but it sounds like I just don't get why they have to be appraised and get approval, and you have to go to them to say, you know, to talk about flu vaccine. That's a purview of this board. It's a revolving account. It's not a general fund account. It's not under procurement. So like, I just don't get that.
Sure. No, absolutely. I will check for you. And you know, just like town meeting this year too, which you're aware, every year the town has to approve the cap for the revolving
Yep.
account. And so that is up to 100,000. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
it's
yeah, because that's how revolving
layer
accounts work.
I have to go
Yep.
through. So I'll check, sure.
Yeah, I mean, and you want the cap raised, you have to go and get town meeting approval, not select board approval. So that gives you the ability to spend up to that cap. Finance committee can change that within the course of the year. Then you go back to town meeting. And this is why I'm like, I don't get why you need to go to the select board to get them to approve what you're going to spend out of the revolving account for flu vaccine. Other things. So anyway, that is my comment. It's a procedural comment. It wasn't about the minutes themselves. I'm just, it's controlling.
I will
Thank
check.
I don't know how other people feel about it. I know what I have to do and I've
Good
done for the last
point.
35
point,
years in public health. I have never once in all my years with a revolving account for clinic activities had to go before the select board or the board of selectmen at the time, 30 years back, to ask them for approvals to buy flu vaccine. That's absurd.
Thanks.
Commentary.
I
I don't
support
know
you,
how the
honey.
board, thank you. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but that's absurd.
It seems like an unnecessary step, certainly.
And what are you going to do if they say no? They have no right to say no.
Yeah. A weird rubber stamp scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, that's my soapbox.
I don't know, Sue, since I handed the meeting to you, do you have to hand it back?
I will hand it back to you now, Stephanie.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we are now at the, and that was really great having Cheryl here. I think clearly that's something we do need to look at and address and kind of update in our stuff. Our next agenda item is the public hearing. So it is 6:48, and we will open our public hearing for the proposed changes to the Westford Board of Health regulation requirements for the subsurface disposal of sanitary sewage. Public hearing scheduled for April 8th, 2024. And did you say we need to roll call into this or anything? Or vote in?
Yes.
So all those in favor of opening this public hearing? So indicate Stephanie, yes. Michelle?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ray, would you like to tell us?
Sure. So, as mentioned at the meeting, for March, as we discussed, this was also an agenda item, was not a public hearing at the time. We do have to make sure that's in the paper for so many days prior to providing a public hearing. The only comments that we did receive regarding the changes were presented at the last meeting from Jeff Hannaford at Norse Design. And as Abby mentioned, she could not be here tonight, but as she had mentioned, we're in full agreement with his comments. They are based on Mass DEP's requirements, so we're happy to add those, to make those changes as well. In addition to the proposed changes that were presented at last meeting. So no, we have not received any additional comments in writing or by email. So if you'd like to have any questions or you wanted to take a vote tonight, that's up to you. And we would, I would just add to speaking with Abby and Sam, as far as starting, we would start tomorrow.
It would start tomorrow.
What kind of vote do we have to make tonight? Right.
So tonight you'd be voting to approve the proposed changes that were presented at the March 11th meeting.
Okay. Joanne?
My only question is, if we're going to do an implementation date of tomorrow,
Mhm.
are there any septic designs that are currently in the office and in the approval process that would be affected by this?
They were not, because anything that comes in, meaning tomorrow, tomorrow, if implementation date is tomorrow, certainly any open plans that we have at this time would fall under the previous regulations. Now, if you decide you want to start, say, for May 1st, or you want to give it a week or 10 days, however you want to do that, either way, we're going to let all the engineers know on our service list, our installers, about all the proposed changes.
I think I'd be more comfortable with an implementation date that gives them all a little bit of time. Not, months, obviously, but enough to know that if they have something that's going to be coming in, if they're working on something that's going to come in, after the fact, that they should now work on changing it as opposed to, do you know what I mean? Like, just give them
I
a little
agree.
heads up.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think it's always good to give folks a chance and an opportunity. And especially it gives our office a chance to put those regulations together. It takes some time and to send those out. So
Is May 1st then a reasonable date for that, or is that further than you think?
That's a little further than I was thinking, maybe,
Like the 15th or the 22nd?
I gotta find a calendar.
It's the 8th today.
Does anybody else have an idea?
I
Well,
think
you
a
said-
month's
There's
time
quite
is
a few changes, so, they're not hard or difficult, they're good. I have no problems with them, but, you just want to give people some time.
I think May 1st makes sense, Ray, when you had said that,
I think it's a nice clean
Yeah,
date to
clean
choose.
date, yeah.
3
rather than
weeks.
Something in
Gives
the
you-
middle of the month.
3 weeks, yeah.
What do you think, Ray? Is that too long?
I do think May 1st in this particular case is ample time, and I know how busy and what you're talking about with how busy it is with septic plans, but we've been reaching out to them along this whole process, so they're aware it's coming. So I think giving them a couple weeks, getting by the end of this week, we have the regulation completely done, final draft out to them. That would be enough time.
So you feel comfortable with May 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
When I spoke to Abby today over the phone, she said, no, we can do it right away. But, I think implementation date for some time out is a better idea. If you
So-
want to give more time, that's up to you.
I don't think it would need more than.
I was gonna give them less.
I think May 1st makes sense.
It is clean.
Yeah.
Um, If Ray, if it's more about how you think the workload's gonna be and if how it's gonna work within the office.
I mean, if you think, giving them just 1 week, we could do the 1 week, or we could. Like the 15th or the 1st seem like reasonable, either the middle of the month or the start of the month seem like.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, for us, it doesn't make a difference. If we have at least a week, some time to put the final and get it out to everyone, um, that's fine. I mean, either way, it is gonna come, at a certain point, a plan's gonna just come in before or the day of, and, we'll have to make a judgment call. That's what we're gonna have to do. So,
Yeah, but I think with giving them a little bit of time, that's easier for you to make the call as opposed to,
correct.
somebody has something in the mail and now it's like, you know, it's gonna
Mhm.
miss it because it was immediate.
Right, and the changes aren't so significant that, all of a sudden we're gonna have a rush of everyone, is
Right, that's why I was thinking May 1st might be a long time, but I'm fine with that if you are fine with that. I'm more concerned with. So, yeah, May 1st.
Did somebody need to make a motion for that then?
I can do that if you want.
Sure.
So I make the motion to accept the changes to the Westford Board of Health regulations and requirements for the subsurface disposal of sanitary sewage. Implementation to become effective May 1st.
I will second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Stephanie, yes. Michelle?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes. I was gonna say no to be
Have
fun,
you-
but yes.
New septic regulations passed now. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, so that's it for that then, right? Oh, we have to close the public hearing.
Yes.
We'll now, do I just say close the public hearing?
Well, yep, so that's the time that we're closing the public
Yep.
hearing and then also a roll call.
We'll call out. All right, so we will close this public hearing for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to. Oh, no, that's the next thing. Sorry. For the proposed changes to the Westford Board of Health regulations for the requirements of subsurface disposal of sanitary sewage at 6:56 PM. And roll call out, Stephanie Granger out, Michelle,
Out.
Sue,
Out.
Megan,
Out.
Joanne.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay. So now we can move forward with the next agenda item, which was a discussion regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to Appendix A and Section 10.2 of the zoning bylaw and creation of a new Section 6.6 firearm businesses. So
So, yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, certainly. So I, wanted to bring this in front of you. Speaking with Stephanie, wanted to make you all aware. I know the last time that you had a joint meeting with the planning board. They have made some changes to the proposed zoning bylaw, which you may have seen in your packet. I know that there was a recent article as well in the WestfordCAT speaking to this. I think their motivation is to get some kind of protections out there that's going to be a compromise, I think, for both groups, as you're aware. But certainly wanted to bring this to your attention. There is a proposed section that speaks to maximum protection of public health. And so just wanted to get your feedback and yeah, any suggestions. Mhm.
Personally, I felt that they needed to remove public health from that because I don't see that there's anything in this bylaw that can be tied specifically to the public health. Public safety, yes, but my feelings were that public health was an inappropriate set of wording. I don't know how anybody else feels. Joanne?
I'm only looking at the purpose. I don't know if it was mentioned elsewhere because I read it really quickly. And it's that sentence to maximize protection of public health. And we're not maximizing anything. So
They can
I
say
don't think
maximize public safety, but there's no public health
But they're not really maximize. I mean, to me, it's not, it's a compromise. So to say they're maximizing something, I think
Yeah.
is a little much. But if they said, is intended to for the protection of the public's health or something, or maximize protection of the public health, safety, but to say public health together, it puts a connotation on it that when we say public health, when, you know, all the arguments that we had for the protection of the public's health, it's a little misleading. Do you know what I mean? There
Yeah.
needs to be, you need to separate those two words. So I don't want it to look like we were consulted and put any effort into this, because we weren't.
Right. And I think it is misleading, and I think public health these days is kind of a buzzword, and so having it there is quite misleading. So it, I neglected to look at is their hearing on that still open, Ray?
It is till May. There will be a special town meeting specifically for
Or-
this bylaw, bylaw amendment, and so that will be in July. So there is time if you have any written feedback or a letter or whatnot.
So if one of us were to write something and then we could have other members look at it, just indicating that we are uncomfortable with the use of public health, maximizing public health in there.
Yeah, I would say that your options are certainly, you could vote tonight on specific language or how the board feels about the proposed bylaw. Or you could bring that back for May. I don't know that it'll be available though in time for their public hearing. I believe it's May 16th. It's there.
Okay, so it'd be better to have a vote tonight about that.
Can I make a
don't-
wording suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
If it was, this section is intended for the protection of the public's health, safety, and welfare in conjunction with the protections afforded by general law 140, blah, blah, blah.
How does everybody else feel about that?
That's good wording, Joanne. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like that.
So we would be voting to ask that they change the wording now from saying maximizing public health, because we are,
I would just say we're just uncomfortable with the wording, and we would prefer,
and
Yeah.
that it, you know, we weren't
advised, or we weren't
we find it
consulted.
misleading.
Yeah. Yeah.
And would advise that they incorporate the language that Joanne shared. You want to share that one more time, Joanne?
I'm also wordsmithing it again, but
Okay,
this section is intended for the protection. We're taking out to maximize. This section is intended for the protection of the public's health, safety, and welfare in conjunction with the protections.
okay. So we would like to, then you're saying, well, would you like to make a motion that we can?
I can. Does anybody else have any comments on that?
No, that sounds good.
Yeah, okay. I will make up.
Comfortable with that.
Oh,
Wait.
Ray?
Just one quick comment. Besides voting on the language, if you're thinking of writing any kind of a letter on behalf of the board, that may be something you want to vote on as well, or mention in your motion.
Okay,
okay.
so we probably do need to write a letter to them as part of their public hearing from the Board of Health,
Correct.
indicating that we are not comfortable with the use of.
Oh, or we can just say we're not comfortable with the wording of that sentence and would suggest this instead, and then explain why.
Mhm.
Okay. I will make a motion to send a letter to the planning board from the Board of Health indicating the fact that we are uncomfortable with wording in the purpose section of the zoning bylaw amendment, and include in that letter the suggested wording as discussed at this meeting.
Thank you. I will second that motion. So motion made and seconded. All in favor, Stephanie, aye. Michelle,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
and Joanne.
Aye.
Thank you. So we will have that written and passed around before sent out to them. And we don't want it to seem like it's nitpicking, but I think it is an important thing to, make sure that.
Well, I think it clarifies. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not nitpicking, it's
Right.
clarification, you know.
Okay, thank you. So now we are moving on to new business. Ray.
Yeah, so just a couple reminders. We do have town meeting on April 27th. That new meeting date has just been established at 9 a.m. at the Westford Academy Fields.
So with that, since I expressed that I am unable to attend that day as I'll be at my daughter's graduation out of state, do we need to have somebody, Ray, for you should?
That would be great. On the docket, or I should say the warrant list for us, is the cap for revolving, which generally, isn't an issue each year. And Gail's public health nurse position is up on the warrant as it's absent in the past. So it would be great to have at least one.
Is anybody able to make that meeting?
I will do my best to be there.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you're not, Megan, maybe, are you around?
Well, so I plan to be there. What is required from the person being there? Just to like attend, or?
Usually there's not a need for our commenting. And at this point, if we're asked for a comment on something we've not voted on as a board, we would just have to say that the board has not got an official position on that we have voted on, so.
Okay. Yeah,
that
I
we
mean, not
otherwise
that it would
support
change
Ray.
whether or not I'll be there, but I'll be there.
Yeah, and otherwise it would be to support the change.
Just to support the health department, and certainly if you needed to get up to, again, as Stephanie mentioned, to say that the board hasn't voted or whatever the stance is on that item. But generally, like I said, we don't have anything that we need to speak to the health department this year. And because the position is going to be paid out of the revolving account, that's all rolled into the warrant. So
So may I make a suggestion? Because I apologize, I cannot be there. That I make that. Well, I'm not going to make the motion yet, but I will, if need be. The biggest part of it is Gail's position, correct, Ray?
correct.
So I think we could take a vote tonight and just say that if either Sue or Megan feel like there's a need to get to the microphone, that we have voted as a board to support this because of Gail's position, and like we've given you permission to speak on behalf of the board.
That's a good idea.
That's so.
Good idea.
So make that wondreful motion then, Michelle. I mean, Joanne.
Sorry, I'm like motioned out here. Okay. I have to think about how to do this.
Well, I
So,
mean,
all right.
we've all supported this all along the way anyway. I
Yeah.
don't even know whether we even have to do a motion. Like, I don't know. We've talked about this all along, that we are all in support of.
Yes, but I think because we're not going to be there as a board, if someone's going to speak on behalf of the board, it should be noted somewhere, specifically in the minutes, that we did discuss it, that you're not just making it up on the fly, like, oh, I know they all agree with me, you
And
know,
Mark
kind
and
of thing.
Megan both have the ability to
On
speak. for-
such
Right,
and
and I-
such a date, this was voted per the board in full support of the public health nurse,
Okay,
being
yeah, okay.
paid her remaining 7.5 hours a week by the revolving account.
Very nice.
And then-
Oh, I wasn't writing that down. Did anybody
Well,
Did
they'll
anybody
have,
repeat that?
well, it's going to be
Written in our minutes.
written in the minutes anyway, so.
Oh, okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that at town meeting, any
On-
member of this board that attends town meeting, has the authority to speak on behalf of the board regarding the increase in our public health nursing hours to be paid out of the revolving account.
Thank you. Are there
And I
any?
will, I'll second that.
Okay, that motion is made and seconded. All in favor, Stephanie, I. Michelle,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
and Joanne.
Okay,
Thank you, Miss Motion Queen tonight.
you're gonna be sorry I got my audio.
No, I'm happy. Those motions are, I'm glad someone else can make them. Okay, Ray, then our next item.
Yeah, so next item is, I just wanted to bring it to your attention that we do have a capstone student that actually started today. And so we're very excited to have her here. She's gonna be working on several projects for not only Sandbox and Narcan, but she's working on updating some flyers we have here in the dental program for our older adult population, projects like that. She'll also shadow with all of everyone here in the department, including Nancy Burns with the MRC. And we'll have an intern starting in mid-April from UMass Lowell. So we're
Who's-
excited to get the extra help.
Who's the student? Who's the capstone student?
Her name is Sarah Pizzette, and
Oh,
she's
yeah.
a senior. And so she has to do about 25 hours a week. And
Do you
so
usually get a capstone student or not?
we do usually take advantage of the moment if we have the space. So right now we're playing musical chairs when people are off and things like that, and kind of hybrid sharing stations. So, but it seems to be working. We're holding on there with
That's
space.
awesome. That's
So,
awesome.
and thankfully with hybrid, a lot of students really like that, especially if they're working on a flyer or something like that. So.
That's awesome.
That's great.
The other thing with new business, which is not here, I just wanted to mention, we have had an increase. We have hoarding squalor cases year round. Certainly, as you're aware, not always mentioned here in this forum, but we have had quite a few squalor and recently a homeless case here in the community. And so we wanted to bring that to your attention. We worked directly with our social worker here in town, our police, fire responders, and trying to address any alcohol issues, animal cruelty, things of that nature, and certainly try to get the person the resources that they so greatly need. And so just wanted to bring that case to you. This particular recent case with the homeless incident, I know the town has served them to its town property. And so we're doing everything we can to help relocate the person. Yeah, I didn't know if you had any questions regarding that.
Thank you for your efforts and for everybody's to work on that.
Certainly. Old business Westford Health Fair was on Saturday, so the whole staff was there all day. It went very well. We had a little over 300 people that attended, touch a truck, petting zoo, all that good stuff. And we believe we had 42 vendors. So it went very well. It was, we had all kinds of vendors from acupuncture to blood pressure clinics to gyms and things like that. So it was pretty well received. And we had a teddy bear clinic. And I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but we encourage kids to bring their teddy bear or squishamall or doll or whatever they had. And we had a stretcher and a whole setup of kid stuff that they could do the blood pressure and little kid stethoscopes.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
it's a great way to talk to kids about, going to visit the doctor and how important, and we had healthy coloring books and a yada yada. But it was super cute and kids loved it. They could put band-aids and gauze and masks and all kinds of things on the animals. And we had one little boy, he was 5, and he had the stethoscope and up to his puppy. And he said, oh, he's not gonna make it. It doesn't look good. So it's super cute. We got lots of pictures, and MRC volunteers assisted and helped with Gail on the clinic. So it was super cute. So
That's awesome.
just
Sounds
wanted
great.
to thank the staff and all of the departments here. Police, fire, and our DPW. They're all so great. The schools for letting us use the space. So super appreciative for that. And it was National Public Health Week. So it was a nice way to finish. And, just want to thank the staff and all of you for all that you do. A lot of people don't realize you're volunteers. So we put that on Facebook and our social media platforms just to remind people and, thank all of you and our staff. So just want to mention that. And I believe the last thing is just a reminder about the youth mental first aid training. April 29th, we do have May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we have lots of fun projects going with the schools to help advertise that and contests and things like that. And the Common will have lots of resources. So that's pretty much it for me, unless you have questions.
Thank you. That's great. And one of these years, I'm going to make it to the fair. It always ends up being, unfortunately, at a time when I have had a challenge with that.
I know, I was
right.
away for the weekend. I really felt bad. Yeah.
No, it's okay. It was the first one since COVID. So we have a lot of new staff, and it was a great opportunity for them to the prepping. It takes a lot of work, and so they did a great job.
Thank you. Anybody have any other thoughts or questions before we? All right. Well, thank you so much, Ray. And I guess we'll maybe next month be able to continue our discussion of the hemp derived and synthetic products.
She's already sent everything to me, so I'll send that over to you.
Okay. So we'll have
She's
the
fast.
information ready. Great.
Okay.
Does anybody want to make a motion then to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Michelle makes the motion. Is there a second?
Like, please, somebody else.
I'll
I'm not
second.
seconding, I'm not doing that. Somebody
All
else
right,
second.
Megan got it in there.
Megan.
So, all right, motion made and seconded. Thanks so much, Ray.
All right.
All in favor, Stephanie, I, Michelle,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
and Joanne.
Aye.
Thank you. And I think before our next meeting, we will have elections in the town. So hopefully people get out and vote.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Have a
I
great.
don't want to lose to myself.
Good night, everybody.